Good evening, and thank you to our amazing Coastal Inspirational Ambassadors for kicking things off for tonight. My name is Diane Sanders, and I am the Vice President for Advancement and Alumni Engagement and a proud alumna from the class of 2005. And it is my honor and privilege to welcome you here tonight as we celebrate the life of Ronald R. Ingle and recognize the remarkable president that he was here at Coastal Carolina University. Our current president, Michael Benson, is attending his oldest son's college graduation in Utah, so he could not be with us tonight, but sends his warm regards to the Ingle family. As a historian and veteran of higher education, he truly appreciates President Ingle's legacy here at CCU. President Ingle accepted the challenge of leading the university when it gained its independence in 1993. And while people thought he was crazy to do it, Ron didn't care. He fully embraced the challenge. He had a vision of the university that Coastal Carolina College could be and wanted to be a part of building something that others could never imagine, right here in Conway, South Carolina. During his 14-year presidency, he doubled enrollment, significantly expanded the academic programs and offerings, increased fundraising efforts, and led the construction of many new buildings. One of his most rewarding achievements was the launch of Chanticleer football, despite many naysayers, and we all know how that brave decision turned out. While he has had many accomplishments, at CCU he is most remembered for being a man of the people. His relationships and the people he met and knew were very important to him. During my years as a student and later as an employee, both Ron and Judy have been a part of my life in some way. I'm most grateful for the precious time that I was able to spend with them during these last 2 years. When President Ingle left this earth in January, it provided another opportunity for me to spend time with Judy and get to know their sons, Stephen and David. And planning this celebration of life with them allowed me to learn so much more about who Ron was as a person, not just president of CCU, but also as a husband and a father. So this evening, we will all get a glimpse back in time with stories from President Ingle's friends and colleagues, musical performances featuring his favorite songs and genres, the students he impacted, and personal memories from his sons and his beautiful wife of 57 years, Judy. So thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight as we celebrate the life and legacy of President Emeritus Ronald R. Ingle. And now to give the opening prayer, I welcome to the stage CCU Student Government Association President, Gabrielle Ryder.
Good evening. I ask that you please bow your heads in prayer. Dear God, we come in the name of Jesus. Lord, I thank you for this opportunity to come together as a community to honor and celebrate the precious life of Dr. Ron Ingle. Lord, you gave him a passion for the students and a heart for serving others, whether this was through his military service, service to the coastal community, or most importantly, his service to his family. Father, you give and take away in accordance with your perfect will. Thank you for giving us so much time with Dr. Ingle. As he led us as president for 14 years, the number of lives he touched is innumerable. Lord, I know that you put people in positions of power for a reason. Thank you for the amazing ways that you worked through Dr. Ingle to grow Coastal Carolina University into the great institution it is today. I ask that his legacy lives on in all of us as we have specific roles to play here in Coastal's community. Please help us reflect on the accomplished life of Dr. Ingle this evening and join in fellowship with one another. Lord, we thank you for your love, mercy, and sufficient grace. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Gabrielle. And now to begin our program, it is my pleasure to introduce to you CCU's Provost and Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Dan Ennis.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. When it comes to President Emeritus Ronald R. Ingle, you know the facts and the milestones, and you can read about them in the program. Coastal Carolina University's first president, 14 years in that office, doubled the enrollment, new academic programs, added football, major capital campaign, built buildings, blah, blah, blah. Let me take you back to a time before all that success. In 1992, Dr. Ingle was serving as chancellor of Coastal Carolina College, the last chancellor of USC Coastal, as it turns out. Soon after he became chancellor, in September 1992, Dr. Ingle sent a message to the faculty and staff. I have it right here. It was on green paper, a stapled memo, as it was back in the day. It's exactly the kind of message administrators send. An important but not unusual message, an update at the beginning of the semester. In this message, Chancellor Ingle uses the classic good news, bad news structure, time-honored by both great leaders like Ron Ingle and petty bureaucrats like yours truly. Chancellor Ingle notes that enrollment is up 1% to 4,023 students. I wonder how many people reading that update in 1992 could have imagined that number doubling to 8,000 in a little more than a decade. More good news. The academic profile of the new freshman class was impressive, with the average SAT score up 13 points. And then comes the turn to the bad news, and an eternal Coastal Carolina truth. You will be stunned to learn that in 1992, the state budget writers were not kind to Coastal Carolina College. In fact, USC Coastal was going to have to make fewer dollars stretch over more students. It doesn't matter if the #1 song is by Boys to Men, as it was in 1992, or Miley Cyrus, as it is today. I had to look that up. At the terminus of Highway 378, somewhere near the state capitol, it's always, as you might say, the end of the road for Coastal. The annual budget shafting of this institution was, in fact, a key factor in the independence movement of this great university. But this is 1992, pre-independence. So when Columbia gives you a budget cut, well, to quote a great film about higher education, "Thank you, sir, may I have another?" In 1992, the University of South Carolina system as a whole was ordered by the legislature to make a 4% budget cut. Instead of passing a proportionate cut down to USC Coastal, say 4%, our good friends in Columbia decided to take a hack at Horry County. And so the cut that hit Coastal Carolina College in September 1992 was effectively 8% of the institution's budget. 8% out of the budget in September, after classes had started. On a side note, I have read that in the early 90s, some folks doubted Coastal Carolina's ability to get along without USC. I suppose those same folks wondered how Cher was going to get along without Sonny. But in his message to the faculty and staff that year, Dr. Ingle declared that despite the cut, quote, "No jobs will be lost at Coastal." But he goes on to say, "We must undergo some serious fiscal belt tightening." The middle part of this message could have been written by any administrator. I've written a few memos like this, and so has every president, dean, and provost. Reduce travel to a minimum, freeze hiring, delay the replacement of old equipment. I did chuckle to see that Chancellor Ingle had to put a restriction on long-distance phone calls. a detail that reminds us that he was writing in the 20th century. This message closes with Chancellor Ingle stating, "We will do everything possible to avoid a mid-year tuition increase because our students should not bear the brunt of this budget shortfall." So, the 3 points from this otherwise routine memo from 1992: 1, coastal is facing a challenge; 2, jobs will be protected; and 3, students will remain a priority. This message is honest, decisive, and it's refracted by an overriding concern for human beings. So, I don't need to list President Ingle's accomplishments. If you want to know what I and others like me and others who knew him think of when it comes to Ron Ingle, think of his heart for people. Dr. Ingle wanted to know people and be known by them. He was legendary, infamous perhaps, for being in constant motion. His various harried administrative assistants would dispatch messengers all over campus, to Prince Lawn, to the Student Center, to the library, to find Dr. Ingle and bring him back to his office. I imagine in those days before cell phones were ubiquitous, "Where is the president?" was probably shouted all throughout the Singleton building. But wherever Dr. Ingle was, he was listening, he was sharing, he was connecting, and conversation by conversation, he built up the image, the culture, and the community of this university. And when independence came in 1993, that mission was crucial. President Ingle didn't just chat to make small talk. He wanted to bring folks into Coastal's orbit, help them feel like they were part of the great adventure of being at a new university. Students were reminded that they were no longer USC's afterthoughts, but they could be proud of this institution in this place that was focused on their needs. Faculty were asked to develop their own curriculum and their own research programs. They were asked to create this university's ethos and distinct intellectual identity. And this was done not by edict, but incrementally, by a president who thought nothing of stopping by unannounced to visit a professor during office hours. Dr. Ingle had to be Coastal's evangelist in chief, and that meant going out and linking the students, the faculty, the staff, and the community with unbreakable bonds of teal. I heard him tell a story about his early days as president when he was trying to raise money for this newly independent university. And he says, "I remember when I was preaching on the civic club circuit. First, I started out just moaning and groaning about the state not giving us enough money, and I was getting yawns. People didn't want to hear that. I had to change the message. And the message was, here is where we are going. The train is about to leave the station, and if you don't get on board right now with Coastal, I'm going to have to move on. People want to hear a positive message, not a fake one, but a positive one. They want to know what your dreams are, what your vision is. You have to deliver on that," said Dr. Ingle. And Dr. Ingle knew that you don't only make that pitch to the prosperous and the powerful. The train was about to leave the station, and it had room for everyone, and it needed everyone. President Ingle would call you out by name and invite you on board. And as silly as it sounds, and I wouldn't say this if I hadn't seen it myself, he wanted you to know that he cared about your dreams and your vision. He was the conductor of the train, and he invited, he coaxed, he brought you on board. The train analogy was not accidental. He and Judy saw education as the vehicle to get somewhere new, someplace different, and someplace better. In 1999, I was walking across a muddy corner of campus. It held a couple of portable classrooms. Some of you remember those. The lot that I was walking across now holds the Edwards Building. Dr. Ingle, from what must have been 50 or 60 yards away, over by the Prince building, called my name and waved me over to talk to me. I had been on campus a month. The president knew me by sight. He had no reason to know the name of an otherwise anonymous assistant professor. When I went home, I told my wife, well, the president of the university knows my name. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I suspect that at that time, Ron Ingle knew the name of every single person who worked at CCU, and he could probably name dozens of current students and hundreds of alumni. And this wasn't some parlor trick, some display of memory. He cared to know who you were. He cared enough to want to know what you were hoping for, and he cared about the things that caused you to worry. There's a certain irony in the fact that President Ingle's remarkable success made this institution too large for such intimacy to continue. For Dr. Ingle, that caring meant he needed to be able to negotiate with the governor of South Carolina on one day and listen to the troubles of a frightened freshman on the next day. Former CCU trustee Charlie Hodge probably summed up Ron Ingle best in 2007 when he said, quote, "Every building you see, every project in the works, every new program that Coastal has bears Ron Ingle's stamp and vision. He's as comfortable with the lawn crew as he is with the CEO." Trustee Hodge is right. The first part of that statement about the buildings and the projects and the programs, let those be engraved in bronze on plaques and let them be noted in the official biography of President Emeritus Ron Ingle, right here. But the second part of that statement, the ability to make an authentic connection with the lawn crew and the CEO, that's the Ron Ingle we know, we knew, and we remember tonight. Maya Angelou once wrote, "People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. People will never forget how you made them feel." New degree programs, new buildings, adding football, increasing enrollment, those things might get a leader admired, but they won't get a person loved. Vanity of vanity, saith the preacher. And I'm not here to celebrate the administrative accomplishments of Ron Ingle. People, as Angelou says, will forget what you did. Some of the good things that happened at CCU immediately after independence would have happened under any one of 100 possible presidents. There are plenty of unimaginative blockheads who become successful university presidents by being in the right place at the right time. God, I hope that's still true. No. What made Ron Ingle admirable, what makes him admirable, is not what he did, but how he did it. President Ingle accomplished a great deal, and for that, you get the thanks of the trustee, you get your name on a building, and a fancy Latin title for your business cards, Professor Emeritus. Vanity of vanity, saith the preacher. Ron Ingle, my friend and mentor, and probably your friend and mentor, that's who I stand up for tonight. I stand up for him. Ron Ingle, the person, who was not a plaster saint. I saw him get frustrated on occasion, once or twice at me. And he made mistakes, and he acknowledged them, and he never ever hid behind his title or his status. I remember him tonight. Ron Ingle, the fighter who defended this great university, but not because he cared about the institution in and of itself, and not because he cared about his reputation among other presidents, but because he cared about the people who needed the institution. I honor him tonight. Ron Ingle, the father, but not just to his own children, but to thousands of children, young and old, who needed to know that someone wise and strong was in their corner. I celebrate him tonight. Ron Ingle, the leader, who never elevated his desire for professional success over his concern for, his respect for, and his love for the people around him. I miss him terribly tonight. Ron Ingle's monument does not need to be built. It's already carved in thousands of hearts.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ennis. Next up is someone, when Judy and I were meeting and kind of starting to put together what this event may look like, and she talked a lot about past stories before she and Ron were here at Coastal. And many of the stories included Mac and Tina Stewart, who are both here with us this evening, and they traveled and came into town last night. So we're so happy to have you join us. And next up on the stage is President Ingle's one of his dearest and longtime friends, Mac Stewart.
Thank you very much, Diane, and thank you very much, Mr. Provost, for that wonderful tribute to my friend, Ron Ingle. I am sure if we would look at the societal conditions during the many decades Dr. Ron Ingle was with us, we would hear the constant yearning in the words of J.G. Holland. God, give us men, a time like this demands. Strong minds, great hearts, true faith, and steady hands. We are grateful to God for sending us Ronald R. Ingle, a man with a strong mind, great heart, true faith, and ready hands. I'm pleased to join others in paying tribute to one of South Carolina's most esteemed citizens, Dr. Ron Ingle. He was a man of integrity, honesty, and humility. These core values were the guiding principles in his life. To Judy, David, Stephen, the grandchildren, the extended family, the Coastal Carolina University family, we grieve this loss with you. But you must know that his signature legacy will be with us for an eternity. I am sure he made his community, Moncks Corner, proud by attending Wofford College, where he had a college experience which he cherished and often mentioned in our conversations. I am sure his community cherished his becoming the first president of Coastal Carolina University, where, remarkably, he spent 14 years, as we've heard before. The American Council of Education's latest survey of that profession to presidency, which came out last week, showed that the average time today is 6.5 years. Ron never appeared flustered in my presence. I think I heard the provost say maybe he did. He was a good listener. These qualities assisted him in bringing consensus to divergent groups. He was always his own person, a person of great moral courage. He demonstrated a standard of personal wisdom and dedication that quietly helped to transform the social consciousness of our society. I was the beneficiary of his generosity in this area. While attending a Director of Financial Aid's conference at Callaway Garden in Georgia during the fall of 1966, I see a few persons in the audience who might remember when that was, and I would add to that Peter, Paul, and Mary if I had a hammer. But while this was a time, for those of you who remember, that we were having several changes in our society, in terms of particular norms and ways that we have lived. While some of the attendees at this conference opted to isolate me, Ron Ingle opted to embrace me by joining me at a small table for breakfast. It is from this initial meeting that we developed a professional and personal friendship that lasted for more than 55 years. We both went to graduate school at The Ohio State University. Our families, as you have heard, became the best of friends, and the rest is history. Death ends a life, but death does not end a relationship. Because of his dedication to his profession and sterling values, we celebrate the departed soul of a person who in many ways lives on in our lives. I too will call on the words of Maya Angelou, which is so appropriate for Ron Ingle. And I quote, "And when great souls die, there's a period of peace blooms, slowly and always irregularly. Space feels the kind of soothing electric vibration. Our senses restored, never to be the same, whispers to us. They existed. They existed. We can be. Be and be better, for they existed." End quotes. Let us be and be better for Dr. Ingle having existed, by reflecting on the things that he loved, and in that contemplation, let us commit ourselves to his unfinished work. Thank you. Thanks for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mac. And thank you again to you and Tina for making the trip here to be with us today. So it's no secret that Ron loved music. And the next song, well, it was just until recently that I learned that this was actually his favorite song. But we knew we had to include it tonight, and it could only be sung by one person, if not Al Green himself. So even up until this last football season, we would be at the football game, and he'd still be asking me, "How's Elise doing? Is she still singing? Where is she?" So he would recall Elise and I performing as students, and then later watch her compete on American Idol, but he was always so proud of her accomplishments. So here tonight, someone else who has flown here to be with us, and she's came all the way from Rhode Island to perform Ron's all-time favorite song, is CCU alumna Elise Testone performing "Let's Stay Together."
Thanks, Diane. And Dan O'Reilly, of course, on saxophone. I'm so in love with you. Whatever you wanna do is all right with me. Well, you make me feel so brand new, won't you, baby? And I want to spend my life with you. Since we've been together, loving you forever is all that I need. Well, let me be the one you come running to. Well, I'll never be that untrue. Oh, so baby, let's stay together, loving you whether times are good or bad, happy or sad. the only thing I see. Oh, so baby, let's stay together, loving you whether times are good or bad, happy or sad. Well, we all just stay together. Oh, loving you whether times are good or bad, happy or sad. Why don't we stay together? This is really meaningful. Thank you so much for including me, and I love Dr. Ingle so much. He was always so supportive, and he made me feel really loved and welcomed, and he's it's a big loss. So I'm so glad to be here to celebrate him with you.
Thank you so much, Elise, and also, as she mentioned, CCU faculty member Dan O'Reilly. So we're happy they could be a part of this evening. And keeping with the theme of alumni who remained important to Ron through the years, joining us now is Pete Green, class of 2000, who served as SGA president, and he and his wife Jamie, who's also a CCU alum, truly love the university and continue to be a part of it. Pete currently serves his alma mater as being a member of the Alumni Association's board of directors, and we're so happy to have them both here tonight. Pete.
Thank you, Diane. Well, I can't sing like Elise. I wish I could. That was beautiful. Greetings or shants up. My name is Pete Green. I'm extremely honored and blessed to have known President Ron and Judy Ingle as a student at Coastal Carolina from 1995 to 2000. Yes, I loved Coastal so much I took the 5-year plan. Actually, President Ingle had a lot to do with pushing me out the door. To pursue my graduate degree at South Carolina, I may still be roaming the halls of the Student Center. As a Student Government Association president, I would often meet with President Ingle. And one of those meetings, he asked me, what is my ultimate career goal? I looked at him and told him I wanted to be a leader and a president of a university just like him. President Ingle encouraged me, He encouraged me to get my master's degree in higher education and even offered me an internship the next summer. That summer turned out to be one of the best summers of my life. I got to watch President Ingle lead, and I met the love of my life, Jamie, who mentioned before is a Coastal alum and also a Wall Fellow of class of 2003. President Ingle will forever be my president and role model. He was a visionary leader who led with compassion, intelligence, and patience. His compassion and approachable demeanor touched the hearts of many of the students here at Coastal. I would like to read you a few quotes from alumni that were touched by President Ingle's compassion. From Mark Dockmiller, president of the SGA from 1998 to 1999. Ron Ingle played an important role and continues to play an important role in the lives of thousands of Coastal Carolina University alumni. Under his leadership, he ensured that each Chanticleer had access to a world-class education that would prepare each Chanticleer for their own aspirations. For those of us who had the privilege of knowing him personally, we remember his fierce intelligence, tempered with kindness and humanity that I myself try to emulate. From Alexander Klaus, a Wall College business student from Germany. I met President Ingle and his wife Judy several times as a student alumni ambassador in 2004 and 2005. What always stood out to me was his calm, dignified, friendly, encouraging, and supportive demeanor. He made it a point to address all students by name, and to me, the people-oriented educator and leader was who I got to meet, appreciate, and admire. In his speeches, he was a visionary about CCU's future and simultaneously, he always appeared grateful, kind, and mindful of CCU's past. Alex speaks of President Ingle's visionary intelligence that was always looking to the future but mindful of the past. President Ingle led Coastal through some pivotal steps, including one of the largest steps when Coastal broke apart from the University of South Carolina. This led to remarkable institutional growth. Coastal Carolina's growth and academic reputation quickly grew under President Ingle's leadership and attracted speakers such as Nobel laureate Desmond Tutu and presidential candidates such as Alan Keyes and George W. Bush. However, with his growth, there was a push to completely separate South Carolina, including changing the mascot, the Chanticleer. President Ingle knew the Chanticleer was the greatest mascot in all the land because it was based on one of the greatest literary works in the English language, and also paid homage to the South Carolina Gamecock and Coastal's past. As a student leader, I'm thankful for Ron's patience, because he was always a great listener, even if we came to his office with some crazy ideas. I remember meeting with Ron when a student, Ted Beaudry, a fellow class president, decided to write a resolution to start a football program. Ted had asked me to co-sponsor the resolution and decided to meet with President Ingle and get his input and support. I would like to read a quote from Ted Beaudry that shows how President Ingle's leadership and patience helped bring football to Coastal Carolina. From Ted Beaudry, I am honored to share a few words about President Ingle's inspiring vision and unwavering leadership for Coastal Carolina University. I had the privilege of working alongside President Ingle, the Student Government Association, and the Board of Trustees on numerous projects, one of which changed the course of athletics at our university, the birth of Coastal Carolina football team. When the board initially denied our proposal for a football team, it seemed like our dreams were crushed. However, with President Ingle's patience and vision, he knew the potential of Coastal Carolina. He envisioned a nationally recognized institution for both academics and athletics. President Ingle supported the Student Government Association in conducting a research project on the impact of bringing a football team to the university. Under President Ingle's leadership, we discovered the transformative power of a football team could have on school spirit. SGA conducted a survey that revealed over 75% of the students not only were willing to increase their tuition to the highest increase provided on a survey. President Ingle courageously went back to the Board of Trustees, and the rest is Chanticleer football history. What Ted didn't mention was that all those surveys were calculated before we had apps like SurveyMonkey. Thank you to SGA President Mark Miller and Vice President Megan McCormick, who helped coordinate and tabulate all those surveys back then. President Ingle knew that a university is a partnership. The students, faculty, staff, partnership between the students, faculty, staff, alumni, and community. President Ingle knew that President Ingle's patience on gathering all the info and data was just what he needed to get the Board of Trustees approval. And as SGA president the following year, I had the privilege of being in the same auditorium when Ron announced football was coming to Coastal. University presidents have an average tenure, as mentioned, of 6 years. President Ingle led this university for 14 years, overseeing transformational growth and impacting the lives of so many future leaders. The Lord works in mysterious ways, and the last moments I spent with President Ron Ingle was on November 12th, sitting next to him and Judy, watching Coastal Carolina beat Southern Miss and clinching the berth into the Sun Belt Championship game. President Ingle will forever be my president and friend. I love you, Ron and Judy. And we as a Coastal Carolina University are so thankful for all you gave this university. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pete. Ron loved, in addition to many things, musical theater and anything by Stephen Sondheim. So as fate would have it, our musical theater students just finished a run of the Sondheim musical, Merrily We Roll Along. So here are some of our very talented students performing the song, The Hills of Tomorrow, which will lead us into a very special tribute video.
The Blue Jays team had played here professionally for several years, and the university had gotten used to them taking care of the field. Well, 2 years prior to my arrival, the pro team pulled out and Coastal resumed taking care of the field, but we forgot to fund that piece of the puzzle, and the field had really become really bad. Jess Danley and I are really good friends, and we would talk about it all the time, and he said, Dr. Ingle makes a tour of campus once a week, every week. You just need to wait till one day when, it rains the day before he takes his little tour on that week and go out there and show him what's going on. I said, Dr. Ingle, I said, would you mind? I said, I'm really having a lot of trouble here with this field, and, I'm really worried about the safety of it, et cetera. And I said, do you mind just walking out through here? And I can't remember if it was his left foot or right foot, but one of his feet hit the sinkhole. And it couldn't have been, it was like going into pudding. You could just hear, and that gumbo that was down in there, it grabbed his shoe. So when he pulled his foot out, the shoe stayed in the ground. I go, oh man, I can't believe that happened and all this or whatever. And make a long story short, I never ever told him, Jess never ever told him that we pretty much scammed him in that deal, because about 30 days later, lo and behold, he and Sally came up with money to bulldoze everything out at the field. We got a new drainage system, a new outfield, new infield, and we kept it a secret for roughly 20 years. And I told that story to the ESPN guys in the World Series, and he heard it. He calls me, and I can't repeat what he called me, but he was laughing. He said, I can't believe you scammed me so bad.
Been brought up to my attention that the story I told about the board member who walked through the baseball field in Coastal Carolina, lost a shoe, was in fact the former CCU president, Ron Ingle, who lost a shoe in the mud.
It's the right guy to lose a shoe.
go to the president.
It worked. It worked.
It really did work.
I tell my daughter about his passing, and she immediately starts telling me the story. She's probably 4, maybe 5. Hope wanders down the hall, and she's looking in the doors, and she finds Dr. Ingle sitting at the desk. And she said she remembers him being so sweet and asking, who are you and how old are you? And she said, I'd never seen a mini fridge before, didn't know what this thing was. And she said, I pointed to it, and he got up and opened it, and he gave me a Pepsi.
I will miss him. I will really miss him. I'll miss looking over my shoulder and seeing him at games, because he was always there. And he'd always nod his head, smile, and I'd nod back at him. And I appreciate that.
I had just moved to Nashville, Tennessee to go to college. One day, this lady comes through, one of our suite mates, and she said, anybody want to go to a party this weekend? And we all said, oh yeah, we want to go to a party. So I came down the steps in these stiletto heels, praying to God I would not fall. And this one guy holds out his hand to steady me. And that was Ron Ingle. And I thought, this is the nicest man I've ever met. Then later that evening, he said, let's go to dinner at the Officers Club. I said, woo, let's do that. So we drove over. Once again, he had this little Austin Healey. He came around to open the door for me, like a gentleman does. And he put his hand up to my cheek, and my earring fell off into his hand. He said, oops. I said, it's all right. It goes back on. It's not my ear, it's my earring. So he just leaned over and gave me a little peck on the cheek. And we walked into the Officers Club and had a great dinner and had a great conversation. And that was it. It was a blind date that turned into 57 years of marriage.
You know, my father was a really, really good and decent man. Honorable, trustworthy, honest. It's a lot to live up to.
Dad was just always there for us and always providing us, you know, a great life and support, not only as kids, but as, you know, growing up as young adults and then as adults.
Once he was home, he was home. And when he came home, he was Ronnie Ingle from Moats Corner. He would take off his suit, put on some comfortable clothes, and watch Andy Griffith and eat some peanuts.
He was always there. No matter what happened with David or I, he was there. He would celebrate our successes, and he would pick us up when we fell down.
He loved his grandchildren and his sons. Oh gosh, he loves those children. And he loved our sons. And they're good boys because he helped raise them. And he helped raise them the way he was raised, with a lot of love and care and straight talk.
Best thing I ever did for that man was have children with my beloved wife, Mary Ann, for sure. He took such joy in them, and they in him. He was a great grandfather for them, as my mother is a great grandmother still to them.
You wouldn't be here today if you didn't have good leadership, and I think another round of applause is deserved. So today I am proud to be here to officially sign the legislation on behalf of all the members of the General Assembly and all of the officials of the state of South Carolina to say that Coastal Carolina is, in fact, an independent university, and we'll sign the bill now.
Having worked and studied higher education really for my entire career, it's always interesting to look at institutions that were branch campuses of a larger, if you will, mothership. USC is a huge place. It's the flagship university of our state. So number one, you have to kind of branch out and create your own identity, create your own degree programs, create an affinity among your alumni base. That was the tall order, and Ron did it superbly well.
I now present to you, friends of the university, the first president of Coastal Carolina University. We have something very special here at Coastal Carolina University. We are small enough for intimacy, and yet we are large enough for inspiration. This is our time, our place, the time and the place of framing questions and challenging answers.
He had been at USC, and people at USC thought he was crazy to come to Coastal Carolina College. And they thought, what are you doing going to that hick place? Ron said, I'm going because I want to go, because they've asked me to go. And he just loved it here. He so loved it. It was just the best match ever.
Coastal chose someone who already was used to going above and beyond, and who already had big ambitions for himself in his personal life that he had proven time and time again he could hit the marks and then set a new mark and hit that one too.
He wasn't a guy who was like super prideful, but he knew what he wanted, and he knew the best thing for Coastal. He knew the best way for Coastal to grow.
This is a time and a place where a hand is raised, heads turn, and the words are heard. Professor, I have a question. Thank you.
He loved getting out of his office and walking the campus. How is he going to really feel the pulse of the institution if he's in the office always? That's the thing that I really, really admired about him.
I think that he really cared so deeply about people. He understood Coastal was nothing without its people, students and faculty and staff, everybody.
I think he embraced Coastal because he felt how much Coastal embraced him. He really put a lot of pride, not into just building up, programs, building up not only academia, but obviously sports and so forth, but he preferred to hang out and go talk to the landscaping crew than talk to a lot of the professors.
He saw an opportunity to really affect change, to serve through higher education, a part of the state that really didn't have a lot of opportunity in that regard.
He was very, very proud of the Amistad Project. He went through everything possible to get them to be willing to come to Georgetown. The lines were very, very long, waiting to get onto the Amistad.
We thought about going to Charleston, but I got to tell you, Georgetown and Coastal Carolina are the ones who had their act together. Charleston will have to happen at another date, so you guys have set the bar, and we'll have to see if we can do better next year. But thank you guys for all your support. Dr. Ingle, this is for you, your vision.
To announce that Coastal Carolina University is officially pursuing the addition to football to our university intercollegiate athletic program.
Yes, there was lots of pushback, not only externally, but internally. There was lots of pushback. But Dad was just like, just wait, you'll see, just wait. And guess what? He was right.
One of his visions was when the football thing came up, he envisioned it being a family kind of affair. And we stood there on the outskirts of the parking lot. And I said, this is what you dreamed for, right? He said, yes. He could see the sons and fathers playing football out on could tell people were cooking, they were grilling. He just thought it was a family affair, and it was.
I was sitting at the first football game thinking, oh my gosh, I'm at a football game at Coastal Carolina University, something that everybody said we could never do.
Tally, 10-5, Tally, touchdown!
Final score, Coastal Carolina 21, Newberry 14.
He was absolutely thrilled to be able to get football there. In the office, he had souvenir footballs, including from the first game. He loved it.
Game ball for Dr. Ron Ingle.
They were so excited for the 20th anniversary of football, which of course was commemorated last year because Ron started football. It was the last season that I really got to know them. And I sensed and I appreciated the passion they still have for Coastal. And the fact that they could look back 2 decades before, not knowing what the investment in football would mean to this institution, to our enrollment, to the exposure, to the kind of the marketing of the Coastal brand. And I could sense a real sense of satisfaction, knowing that they had done something and done something significant.
When you look at the success and how football has grown here, how baseball has grown here, how basketball has grown here, how all the other sports have grown here, you have to look back to Dr. Ingle.
Academically, the growth of our programs during his tenure here and, as early in my career to watch us grow in all areas, not just athletics. Obviously, I'm a baseball coach, but I watch and observe. It was incredible, the growth we had unilaterally across this university.
He was immensely proud of it, though. Coastal means everything to my mom and dad. Arts, culture, athletics, academics. It just was all Coastal all the time. I have his Coastal golf bag in my garage right now, full of clubs, yeah.
The bricks that he laid are going to continue to go on and on and on and on. I mean, look at what's happened. Dr. DeCenzo followed it up. Dr. Benson is following that up. But he laid the bricks and he laid the mortar. And I was proud to call him my friend.
His legacy here, we lost a great teal and black bleeding young man when he passed. And, we're going to miss him forever. But he did so many great things for this university and left a legacy that is really hard for anyone to match.
I want him to be remembered as the man whose vision was not only brought to life at Coastal, but lives to this day.
I can just say that he was an overall good person. And the university is all the better for him having been here.
He was so proud of this place, he really was, and what it had grown into, and that's the story. It grew into what he envisioned.
Coastal will not be what it is today without Ron Ingle. And I can say categorically that I came to love and appreciate Ron, Judy, their sons. So we're going to miss Ron a great deal, but he's not forgotten. And we will look back on his presidency as the one that established us as our own university. And I'm so grateful for that.
I love this university that we have built. This university we all love is defined by each and every member of the Coastal Carolina family. And I have been very privileged to be part of that family. And when I leave this university, I will do so with the confidence that all of you are joined to chart a brilliant future for our Coastal Carolina. I want to sincerely thank you for allowing me 14 years in a dream job. Thanks.
I hope that video captured the man we know and love, or loved, still love. Well, this night would not be complete without hearing from someone who Ron believed in. Someone who was up for a challenge and, like Ron, didn't worry about what other people were going to say or think. Someone who shared his vision of creating something bigger for Coastal Carolina University. So now I invite to the stage CCU's first ever head football coach, David Bennett.
When I came to interview, I kind of studied him up and tried to find out about Dr. Ingle. And I found out he was from Moncks Corner. He had gone to Wofford. So I started researching him a little bit. And everybody I talked to said, oh, he's very smart. I said, oh, dadgum. He said he's very wise. So I remember when I came on the interview, I think they had it narrowed down to 3 people, and I walked in his office. My heart was beating a little bit because I said, he's going to be a lot smarter than you are, boy. I said, don't be in here too long. Talk to him and get it over with and get out of here. So I sat down with Dr. Ingle and I started telling him about our priorities, that we wanted to put God and family first, the education second, and football third. He said, that's what I'm looking for. Now tell me your plan. And I went, oh, here it goes. He wanted to know what our plan was. And I told him we want to blanket the state of South Carolina and then work up to North Carolina, work into Georgia, but we got to cover our home state first. And he looked at me, he said, you might be our guy. And I said, I walked out of there and I said, I hope I am, and I hope I didn't stay too long in here with him. That was my first time meeting Dr. Ingle. Now, the first phone call I got from Dr. Ingle, it was our inaugural year, and y'all know back in 2003, I think, Matt, we might have just got cell phones in 03. We might not even had them yet, but he called the house phone, and it was Sunday morning, and we had just played North Greenville that Saturday night. And it wasn't Moose Kogel calling the house, it was Dr. Ingle. He talked in that Monk's Corner brogue. Coach Bennett, said, Dr. Ingle. He said, what happened last night? It ain't gonna happen again, is it? I knew what he was calling about. I threw a flag and I picked it up and threw it back at him. First and only time I ever did that, and they all started coming back. And I said, no, sir, that won't happen again. He said, good. He said, I don't want to look for a new football coach. And I said, no, sir, you won't have to. He told me a story not to tell anybody, but I'm going to go ahead and tell y'all now. He said, I asked him, did you play ball? Did you play sports? He said, Coach, I was the manager for Gerald Moody at Berkeley High. I said, I bet you were smart. He said, I was charting things and stats and analytics before anybody ever did it. He said, but Coach Moody would have me get off the bus first, and he'd close the door. He said he wanted to fool the other team. He said he only wanted them to see me before the team got off the bus. He said my legs were about that big around. I remember when we had the luncheon with Bob Brooks at the Dunes Club, and we couldn't decide how much money to ask him for. And we were talking about $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. Dr. Ingle said, let's fill him out, see how much he can give us. And so before we made the ask to name Brooks Stadium, I'll never forget, Bob Brooks looks at me and he says, y'all gonna win? He said, I don't want to give money if y'all not gonna win. And then he turned his eyes from me to Dr. Ingle. Dr. Ingle looked at me and said, we better win. And again, I said, yes, sir. Dr. Ingle, and you see by this celebration, he loved the academics, he loved the arts, he loved athletics. He loved it all. And if he did it, and the university did it, he wanted it to be great. He didn't want it to be average. You look back at him and breaking off from the university, and our board had a lot to do with that as well. He laid the foundation for this university to be great. So he was the risk taker. I think about him all the time and his wisdom, his grace. He had grace. He'd let you mess up, but he told me it wasn't going to happen again. He had a charm about him. He had a grit about him. You didn't want to see that grit, but he had it, and Judy knows he had it. And as an old coach told me a long time ago, behind every great man is going to be a great spouse. And Judy was a huge part of his leadership and his caring for people. And he did. He loved all people. The thing I want to challenge everybody here to do something that Ron Ingle did, Dr. Ingle did. He was a mentor. And I think the provost said it best, and the former student body president. We'll never know. You'll never know how many people he impacted. And then goes on to their children and their grandchildren. That's legacy. And Dr. Ingle was a phenomenal mentor. I still would call him and talk to him on the phone, and I would talk to him about the next job opportunity and should I do it. And he would always respond, you love kids, you love sports, it's not really working. You get to work with kids and you get to work in sports. So I'll miss making those phone calls and talk to him. Judy, I'm gonna need your cell number because you're the next best thing. Everybody, thank you for being here, and Dr. Ingle, thank you for believing.
Thank you, Coach Bennett. At this time, I ask that Judy, Stephen, and David Ingle join us on stage. All eyes on you, Judy. So CCU football is, of course, now a tradition that forever lives on, thanks to President Ron Ingle. And so tonight, we present to you, take your time. I meant that for real, not joking. It's okay. So tonight, we're presenting you with this one-of-a-kind football helmet to add to Ron's football collection. One side features the original Chanticleer logo that symbolizes where we started. And on the other side features the current Chanticleer logo, which represents the here and now. This remarkable football journey and the tremendous impact it has had on our university would not have been possible without Ron's determination, passion, and love for Coastal Carolina University. So to Judy and Stephen and David, thank you for sharing your husband and father with us for so many years. The impact he has left on this place and all those who have walked this campus will never be forgotten. Well, I want to thank all of our special guests for being here with us tonight to make this event so special, and for all of you that came to celebrate the life of Ron Ingle. He's certainly made an incredible and lasting impact on this university and will never be forgotten. And to Judy, Stephen, and David, I thank you for trusting me with this very special night to remember. And so on behalf of Coastal Carolina University, I thank all of you for being here. I now invite you to join us for a reception outside as we continue to celebrate the life of President Ingle. And as we transition to Spadoni Park, please enjoy the hymn performed by our Coastal Inspirational Ambassadors. Thank you so much.